Excuse me.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the live chat, to the live stream tonight. I would like to say hello to anyone listening in the chat and hope that you guys, I got phones ringing in the background. Don't pay it any attention. I'm still learning this. Hey, Jordy, good to see you. I'm still learning this live streaming technique, and hope you guys can forever remain patient with me, please, because it is definitely something to get used to. So, for everyone joining tonight, would like to tell you that I have a special guest on. He has been a person that's commented on the channel, and I asked him if he would like to come on and share some of his experience here in Thailand, and he has a ton of it. Aussie Thai, how you doing, sir? His channel is Thai-Tastic, and if you guys want to go over there and check out some of his videos, I watched one of his cooking videos today, and I have to tell you, I was a little jealous, and probably because I was a little hungry at the time. He has some very interesting work over there. So, Ty, if you want to introduce yourself and just kick things off, you can take it away, man.
Sure. Well, thank you first for inviting us, and I see it's climbing up. We've got 8 watching now and a couple of people chatting. So, yeah, I'm behind Thai-Tastic. You can call me Jay or Jamie. It's not a problem. I'm one of the faceless vloggers out there. I tend to have a small team of people around me, but I take care of the majority of roles, from production to sourcing to procurement to editing to publishing. But I have a couple of stars that are usually with me when I'm filming, and the whole channel is about fun. The channel is really being dictated by the viewers and as to which way I go with it. It's quite a mix. It has a number of things in there, as you said, from cooking to nightlife to day trips. I don't get around Thailand too much these days because I'm transfixed on a couple of areas which we're going to both discussing about shortly. But to give you a bit of potted background on my history, going back from my school days, in fact, I was in one of the worst 5 schools in the UK, which unfortunately, or fortunately, is now closed down. And that's going back to the late 80s. I left school in 89. And that was straight out of a senior school, as it's known over here in the UK. And went into what was my father's business, or worked in the business, and that was aviation. So I spent 7 years in aviation, and we worked on Chinook helicopters, Concorde, Gulfstream G4s. So after about 7 years, my position, along with 55 others, was we were made redundant. They moved the business up to Castle Donington in the East Midlands, and after that, I spent 3 years at a corporate level, rolling out what is now known as Virgin Media across the UK. So I was one of the forefront and leaders in bringing that type of technology to the UK, particularly from the US, where it was predominantly already rolled out. And yeah, after 3 years, Mr. Branson saw value in that and purchased it from NTL, and that's how it's known as Virgin Media across the UK. So I designed and rolled out all of their purchasing and materials control functions for Mr. Branson at the time. And then I learnt about Thailand and backpacking, and my girlfriend and I at the time, we spent £1,100 on 11 flights with companies, something like STA Travel or Trail Finders, I forget the company at the time. And they were a great set of flights. We could keep on, they were flexible, we could keep changing them. They didn't seem to have an end date as well, which I'll come back to. But we ended up in Bangkok, Thailand, spent 2 weeks on Khai San Road, went up to Chiang Mai, did the elephant trekking, and spent a few days up there. Came back and learnt in Bangkok about this island called Koh Samui. Never heard of it before. Well, my face was getting a bigger grin on it as we were passing all the different beaches, because I was facing outwards and my partner was facing inland as we went along from Natom Pier to Chawang Beach, where we ended up, and fell in love with the place. Now, our intention was to get our open water certification under Professional Association of Diving Instructors, as I'm sure a lot of you know, is PADI. we got chatting to a guy in on Chuang Beach who represented this company on the main road, and we ended up buying a big package. Actually, we were being taught to scuba dive for 6 days a week for 2 months to the level of dive master, and that is my true only profession that's recognised throughout the UK, throughout the world, in fact. So I'm a dive master for the professional position.
That's a pretty good profession to have, especially if you want to live in Southeast Asia and make a living. I would say so. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you. It's very fulfilling, and anybody that's interested or already has a certification, I would definitely recommend going up to the level of at least rescue diver. You learn so much. I've been privileged as a result of those teachings to have saved 2 people's lives, and you learn a hell of a lot of stuff that you can just have to the benefit of yourself and others throughout, you know, the rest of your life, and even right down to how to self-rescue, etc. And you're a lot more confident in the water. Yeah, it's taken
awesome,
us.
Let me ask you.
Go on.
Let me ask you real quick. That's all right. Jordy has a question for you over in the chat. He wants to know if it's easy making a living as a dive master.
Okay.
He's thinking of becoming one.
Sure, it is a very good question. There is no money in it, and there never has been. I say that though, I've not looked into it for a number of years, and I would say over 15 years, because we was always told by our instructor, there's no real money in dive mastering, but it's enough to live on. You won't make or be able to save money in particular. We was on £12.50 a day in '97. That paid for us to have basic meals, a basic bungalow between 2 of us. There's no, you need to get really to an instructor level, and that is where it really takes you around the world. You'll learn more and earn more, and you can make a living out of it. But dive mastering is getting by, but it will fund your stay usually at most places around the world. Yeah, but it's not a profession, I would say, as such, dive mastering. But you are taught to the level, in fact, of instructor level at that point. But there is one more step to go.
Craig is asking, Craig's a friend of mine, met him on YouTube here. He's asking about Koto Dive Island. You know anything about that?
Hotel, T-A-O, is it? Yep.
It says T-O-E. I mean, he may have misspelled it. I'm not sure.
I think it's Koto, which is a group that's part of the 3 islands. There's Koh Samui, there's Koh Phangan, which is famous for the full moon parties originally.
Right.
And then there's Koh Tao, and Koh Tao was a destination we had every single week with our boat, because we were taking customers on 2-day boat trips, and we would stop off at Shumporn Pinnacle, which was a fantastic dive site with these 2 massive boulders on the way up to Koh Tao. And do you remember the film The Beach?
I do, yes, sir.
Right. So that was based off of and out of Chuang Beach and the marine park, and the marine park is also to the to the west of the island. On the way up, we used to visit that on the way up to Koh Tao, and Koh Tao was great. Back in '97, there was that many dive shops. I don't know what it's like now. I've not been to Koh Tao for a while. There was 24 dive shops literally next door to each other on the island. That's how popular it was in '97. It is a great destination. I saw my first whale shark. That was dive number 30. We'll never forget that.
Now let me ask you a question real quick about, because the beach, you're talking about the movie The Beach. Now I'm kind of obsessed with that movie. I loved it. I thought the idea of it was great. You're saying that movie was shot where they filmed the beach scenes on, is it Koh Tao? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is forget Koh Tao and the beach. It doesn't feature in the film.
Okay.
It was never a destination in the film. In the beginning, it's based off of when he's talking to a couple of backpackers, and they're thinking about taking this trip to this island where the marijuana, etc., which we can't talk about, of course, and things like that were going on in this mysterious secret island. Is based off of Chuang when they're talking, and that's in Koh Samui. Now, the island that they purposely were going to visit is based in the marine park off of these 3 islands: Koh Samui, Koh Phangan, and Koh Tao. However, as we know, and those that have visited particularly the Koh Phi Phi Islands, That's a hell of a lot of distance different, and it's not in the Gulf of Siam, not in the Gulf of Thailand. And so, in fact, whilst the book and the film gives you the impression that it's this island in this marine park, and they're talking about that at the beginning of the film, it's actually filmed in one of the PP Islands.
Wow. Okay. I was not aware. I was not aware of that. I think because I was going to say if there's an island here that beach was filmed on,
Yeah.
I would definitely make a beeline for it sometime over my next break. But let me
so picturesque.
yeah, definitely. Let me say hey to a couple of people in the chat, and I think one guy has another question for you here. First, John, thanks for dropping in, man. If you guys don't see John Montgomery in the chat over there, he's a good friend of mine. Met him on YouTube as well. Glad he's here. Pal, thanks for dropping by, man. Ian says hello from England, and hello to you, sir. Glad you're here. My friend Larry's in here, and I appreciate him. Jordy asked another question. I don't know if you can see it or not, but he said he's thinking about Bali, Philippines, or Thailand to do his dive master. Do you have any advice on which one?
I don't, but let me give you an idea of out of the two, three, in fact. Yeah, so you've got three there. I've only spent a week in Bali and I haven't dove there. Investigate what the conditions are like and what's the best time of year. That's what I would recommend for any of the locations. For example, Thailand, the season, depending as well, if you're in, say, out of Pattaya, out of one of the islands in the Gulf of Thailand, the season really, and I'm talking about the best conditions for diving, finishes about June, July, August time, in the low season, because things are getting stirred up in the waters, and everybody talks about visibility, which is important. You know, what's the viz like? And if you want really good conditions and a good time of year to be taught, was actually, and we were fortunate, will be the beginning of the year, like the high season, really, when you're in Thailand. In the Philippines, there's a lot more what we call nudie banks and very small things to view unless you're right out there off one of the coasts of the islands. So there's a lot of small stuff, very colourful stuff to see. So I haven't got really any view on where to be taught. I can only really comment on Thailand from my heart and from my experience. But the prices, I believe, are similar all over the world, even to this day, like just a standard divers without your own equipment is about £25.
Wow. So you mastered the diving down in southern. This is all taking place in southern Thailand. My Thailand geography skills are not quite up to par yet. I've only been here since April, so and I came over from the Philippines. I stayed 9 months in the Philippines, and now on a probably what's going to be a 2 to 3 year tour here. Hoping to see most of the stuff. So after you left the southern part of Thailand, what was the next part of Thailand that you ventured into?
Right, so we landed in Bangkok, went to Chiang Mai, came back to Bangkok, went to then the Gulf of Thailand, Koh Samui, Koh Phangan, Koh Tao, so that group of 3 islands there. And from there, we did a visa run. When we landed, actually, you were automatically then given 3 months.
Right.
I believe it's 3 months or 4. I think it was 3. So we did a visa run to Penang in Malaysia, overland, which was interesting. I actually overstayed my visa and was crapping myself. I didn't even realise until I was told this at the border by 11 days. And I was fined then 100 baht per day. Now, I heard if you did that the other way around and overstayed in Malaysia, each day you overstay was a day in jail.
Good thing it was Thailand and not Malaysia.
Yeah, I don't remember that being the case now, but it was certainly in '97. And out of the places in Thailand I've been to, I've also been to because I've been, without going into too much detail, my fiance is from Phetchabun, which is in between. Which is a province and a city in between the Bangkok and Chiang Mai.
Yep. Can I tell you a quick story about that? the video that I shot, I don't know if you saw it or not, the video that says midweek work vacation or work event, the midweek work event video that I just did last week.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Was actually, I was there. I was in Prachambury. Is that how you pronounce it?
No, there's a few actually. There's Phetchabun, there's Ratchanburi,
this one.
there's similar named places at the end of the name.
Okay.
But if it's Phetchabun,
yeah, this area was like east of Bangkok and a little north of Chonburi. I think. No, different place.
This is more northwest of Bangkok, and Phetchabun is spelled Phetchabun, I believe. Now, if you look that up, you'll see it's the tamarind capital, producing capital of Thailand.
Okay, all right, I got you. Continue. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh yeah. So other places in I've had some lucky escapes. I just remembered about being in the worst monsoon for 50 years in Thailand. A few years back with my ex, we went traveling back for old time's sake to Koh Samui, and then was very surprised that they now got tarmac road in Chawang Beach and Boots, the chemists, and McDonald's and such like. And it's very expensive, but there's still cheaper places you could go to with on the island. And that's when we went to actually the Phi Phi Islands. Krabi, very picturesque, very nice. I'd like to go back there again and do.
That is one place
that's a photographer's dream as well. But you need to get, as a photographer such as yourself, Jeremy, to the islands for certain, because everything's there. There's mountains, jungles, waterfalls, beaches, crystal clear water.
Wow.
And get yourself a camera if you haven't already, and at least do some scuba snorkeling off a boat trip, so you will really see the stuff that is down there. Leave any bubbles, don't touch anything. That's the policy. Just take memories.
I have a deathly fear. I don't know if you heard me say this on the last live stream, but I have a deathly fear of breathing underwater, and I'm thinking since they came out with this new this mask thing now, where my whole face can be in the mask, and I don't have to like hold my nose and breathe through my mouth. I think I can probably do it, but it's going to be one of those life events for me, to be honest with you.
I read and write a lot of self-development stuff, so it's all in the mind. So you'll find the right literature, and I can help you out after this stream with something that will help you. But you've got to become something you're not to be able to overcome it. And of course, with training, you'll be able to do it. And self-hypnosis is a good one that I've adopted to do many things. It's right through to public speaking, etc. So going back to my Thailand trip, they're pretty much the main locations I've been to. If you want a quick 30 seconds of other places I've been to, particularly for diving, I can quickly go over that with you as well.
Yeah, go ahead, tell everybody.
Okay, so after our trip, in fact, a family member became ill, and after a year and 5 weeks of only getting halfway through our year trip, we ended up in Melbourne, and I was working there in the Three Kings, I think it's called, or the Crowns casino in Melbourne, because they were so desperate for people over the new year, and Rod Stewart was there singing away. And so we worked there for 5 weeks, and then we had to come back to the UK. And that was early '98. So the trips for scuba diving around the world, of course, now became very expensive because they were holidays and I wasn't backpacking anymore. So I've been to Fiji for 3 weeks, back to dive the east coast of Australia. I spent 5 weeks flying into Melbourne, going as far north as Townsville, and coming back for New Year's in Sydney Harbour. That was a great trip. I've been to Central America, so we've dove. I've free dived in Jamaica. I've spent 3 weeks in Belize diving the Blue Hole. If you want to look up the dive site, Blue Hole, that's a fantastic, renowned site.
I saw skydivers that actually skydived into the Blue Hole.
That's good. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, on a YouTube video, and the Blue Hole thing just amazes me. That's something that I would definitely like to visit, if for no other reason, just to take pictures of. For sure, and you can do that. You can go as just a snorkeler or somebody
visiting. It's usually an overnight trip, so you stay in one of the islands from a boat. If you go to San Pedro Island, I recommend, in Belize. The mainland hasn't much to offer apart from visiting. Is it the Mayan or Aztec ruins in the jungle? It's still a bit of a shanty town, Belize. It's not the safest of places. I spent a week too long on the mainland. I'd have liked to have spent more time on the islands. I love the islands. And it's San Pedro. And then you go out to Lighthouse Reef, do some diving there, and then ultimately the Blue Hole, which was awesome. So Fiji was good. Dove the Poor Nights in the northern island of New Zealand. Fiji was great, actually. Did island hopping. It was like £15 per taxi plane to go from one resort to the other. I spent, I think it was 3 weeks, yeah, with my parents as well. I brought my parents over. I've doved in the Maldives. I fell in love with the islands, and I went to the Maldives several times and dove there.
That's another place that's on my bucket list.
It's awesome. It's another world. You get into this bubble of relaxation after 3 weeks. You can almost say 3 weeks is too much on the islands out there, because a lot of the islands are so small as well. I did my nitrox dive there, which is I recommend that for anybody. Instead of breathing at depth, standard compressed tanked air, nitrox is more enriched in terms of I think mainly oxygen. So it's a lot healthier, and you feel better for it after diving, and not so tired when you're breathing nitrox, a nitrox mix of air. And yeah, go
Ian
on.
Ian says they do a boat from Pattaya to an anchored large boat where you can stand bottom of sea with glass bowl on head air pipe in and out and have photos taken. So does that, let me make sure I understand that. That means I put the bowl over my head and I'm in a bubble of air, but I can stand on the bottom.
Yeah. Do you remember these old, sorry to interject, these old films that you saw even in black and white, where there's a guy almost like with lead boots on, and he's got an air hose going from the surface down to him, and he's wandering around on the bottom. And yeah, you can do that, and I think they only go up to about 6 meters depth, which is fine. You'll see lots, and it's an experience. But yeah,
now that would be something I could probably do.
Yeah, it would still be your brain will be telling you, oh, I can't breathe, and you'll be hyperventilating. And even a seasoned scuba diver, when I went on my first shark feeding dive, which was in Fiji, and that's a dive site called the Supermarket off of, I think it's Manor Island Resort, I was a bit apprehensive, and I hadn't dove for 9 months, and I had problems descending because I was holding in too much air in my lungs. And thankfully my girlfriend spotted me. She's also a dive master as well. And you know, there was no danger. It's just I couldn't descend, and I was one of the last to get off the boat to get to this dive site. And she was telling me to breathe more slowly, and yeah, it was just didn't even think of it, and yeah, I could descend no problem. But yeah, it's interesting how your mind thinks, well, you shouldn't be able to breathe underwater, and once you get over that bit, that's a massive hurdle, and your anxiety level goes down, and it will go. Time flies so fast, no matter how seasoned you are as a diver. It goes really quick. And well, look how quick they got the guys out of the cave recently. But that was fantastic. And they were volunteers from the UK that really you know, we're at the pinnacle of the saviour of those guys, which was awesome. Yeah,
it was. And that was a phenomenal rescue. Jordy's asking another question for you. He says, what items do you advise to buy and not rent as a dive master internship? So I guess he's talking about on his internship, what items would he need? Right.
Yeah, there's some really personal items that people recommend. And, you know, backpacking, we was on a very tight budget, as you can imagine, at the time. And we were recommended by the shop, get at least your mask and snorkel. And then if you can afford it, get some fins as well. They're not called flippers. So you know what those are. They go on your feet. If you know someone's talking about flippers, then you know they're not a true diver.
Okay.
But they're called fins. They go on your feet, and you can get a nice fitting pair of those. Now, there are two types of fins, really. There are bootless, so they just strap around your ankle, or you have to wear a boot with them. They will be good for long term, but I just had slip-on fins, and they did me. You're not then borrowing the shop's one all the time, which could be quite tatty and worn and not so good. And of course, if you've got prescription glasses or you wear contact lenses, then it will be advantageous maybe to get a mask made to order with your own prescription, which I did back in '97 in Chawang. I had my own mask made to fit my eyesight. So those are the three things, and a snorkel, which is what you would use on the surface usually before going down with the regulator in your mouth, which is the breathing apparatus. Now, if your budget extends to a little bit more and you want to then upgrade to a bit more equipment, because you know you're going to be hooked with this and you're going to want to be doing it for the rest of your life, even as a hobby, then you have a BCD as well, which is the jacket people wear, which is short for buoyancy control device. And there are a range and some really good buoyancy control devices out there. And then the next step up from that would be to buy your own hoses and regulator to take with you. Forget buying your own air tank and taking that around the world. It's just a no, you don't do that.
I imagine airlines wouldn't like that too much.
Yeah, they're the first few items to consider. And talking to any good. The people in these shops, these dive shops, they're all salespeople. It's all about getting you wet. They want to get you out there on a boat or offshore, walking down the beach into the water and making money, of course. So everybody that works in these dive shops are very accommodating. There's a good bunch of people. They really know their stuff. And you know, the hierarchy is you've got the area director in Paddy that will be looking at and may have several shops in the area. Then you have a director or an owner of a shop, and they've been an instructor for a number of years. Then you've got under the instructors dive masters, and then you've just got assistants like boat workers and shop workers and admin, etc. But no, it's fantastic. It can be very addictive. I just dive to get wet now. I've seen most things around the world. On my hit list is Galapagos Islands.
Oh yes, definitely.
When you learn to dive in a location, this is something to consider as well, guys. If you are considering getting your open water certification, at least, you can go on one of these try before you buy type of packages where it's try scuba diving, and sometimes they're usually free, maybe in the pool. Or they give it to you in the sea, and you can just try for like, I don't know, £15, £25, you know, 30, 40 bucks to go out and just try it. And they look after you really well, make sure you got a taste for it and get hooked on it, you know, because it is another world down there. You see some things that you will never see in your life. We know more about the moon than we do what's in the water, and that's a fact. And there's some really interesting sights. But you can go, yeah, after you've done something like that, the world's your oyster. Eat it.
That's a very good. I mean, that's your summary or synopsis of diving around the world has been captivating, man. It's gotten me very, very interested, and I'm sure the people listening are kind of feeling the same thing. But I do, and I'm so glad you shared all of that. You know, people are going to hear this on the playback, and they're going to get a lot of very valuable.
Well, I've got goosebumps reminiscing because I hadn't dove for over 2 years. Would you believe?
Wow.
And living on and off in Thailand. Oh, that's something I wanted to add was if you're going to learn to dive and you appreciate the heat, do not learn in your Western country unless you live in a country where the water is at least 25 degrees at depth. And Thailand, after learning to dive in Thailand, I was that hooked on it. I was tempted to go for instructor level, but I didn't have a need to, and I was happy at dive master level because that enriched what I was able to achieve for myself and others. But
that's really incredible. I'm very excited that you shared all of that. I want to move the conversation along to let's bring it into Thailand and talk about our land experiences here, if we can. I know a lot of people that watch my channel have a ton of requests in terms of, hey Larry, a ton of requests in terms of, you know, what's the nightlife like? What is Pattaya really like? What did it used to be like? What is it like today? Yeah. you know, and all I can speak to is what it's like today, because I frequent Pattaya. I find that there are many things there other than just the nightlife. Don't get me wrong, the nightlife is exciting, but other than the nightlife, for example, I went to the Wooden Temple. That was a very interesting. Very interesting. You know, not one screw in the whole thing was a comment that was left on that video, and I didn't even think about it while I was there, but that comment is absolutely correct. There's not one screw in the whole thing. It's all you know. It's all bamboo and
dowels.
and yeah, exactly. Ian says an underwater camera. If I can get an underwater, I have a brand new camera, and it's when I say brand new, I mean it's new to me, but it's also new to the camera market. So if I can find an underwater kit for it, I fully intend on using that at some point. But I wanted to move into and to talk a little bit about Bangkok and Pattaya, because those are two places that I'm familiar with. When I moved here in April, I stayed in Bangkok, and I got a great, fantastic deal on an apartment there. It was a 1-bedroom, fully furnished, had a kitchen, I mean everything, for 6,000 baht a month.
And you've done a video on that, haven't you?
Yes, sir. I did a video on that. You know, it was just a fantastic deal. And I was a 10-minute walk from, not even 10 minutes really, but about a 10-minute walk from an MRT station. So I could get around the city easily. And I learned, and now I was up on the northern part of Bangkok, around the northern part of the MRT. So the BTS line runs, for people that don't know, more in the southern area, and it comes down, it kind of like curves off
Right.
toward the southeastern side away from Bangkok.
Right.
But there are a lot of places in downtown Bangkok to stay. There are a lot of things in downtown Bangkok to do. And I just wonder, we'll start with Bangkok and then hopefully get to Pattaya. But if you could tell me your experiences in Bangkok, and maybe some of your favorite places to stay and that kind of thing, I'm sure people would love to hear that.
Right. It will be quite short because I'm not a lover of big cities.
Okay.
I do appreciate what they have to offer. For example, I'll give you an idea. I was literally less than 40 minutes from London, UK, and lived just outside of London for a number of years. I can count on one hand how many times I can remember going into London. I don't like commuting. I don't like those people that are in that mode of commuting. And I've got an interesting, not major problem, but I have suffered with asthma in the past, so smog and such like doesn't really agree with me. But that's neither here nor there. I'll give you a potted history of Bangkok and how we came to choose the area that we stayed in initially. And of course we had only then, because internet was only really coming about, and Hotmail didn't belong to Microsoft, or did it belong to, I think it was an independent guy who owned Hotmail at the time.
Right.
And, you know, there were no smartphones, etc. So we had the typical Lonely Planet guide, and it was a great book, and we would use it again, of course, if the internet's not about. But we ended up on Khai San Road, which is, of course, is backpacker one-stop shop area, and we stayed in this, watching our budget, and we stayed in this area and far too long because we were dithering as to what to do next. But we stayed in this ladyboy run establishment, which didn't even have walls going up to the ceiling on the rooms. We weren't so much of a hostel backpacker, but it certainly was a hostel as well. But we had our private sort of room. We stayed in this place in Khai San Road, and we leapfrogged from there to different parts of Bangkok. So the big golden Buddha is a sight to behold and go and view there. Read up, people, because it's a city, then any potential people taking advantage of you needs to be read upon. So, you know, because you'll get lovely, friendly locals telling you certain places are closed because they want you to go somewhere else. You know, to yourself to look into whether or not Big Buddha or the temples or the palaces are available to go and visit. So have your wits about you, be a bit street savvy. and really enjoy it. There, like you said, is some people move into Bangkok because they love it so much and live there, and then move back out for a rest and come back again to it. There is a certain amount of attraction to it. The transport is absolutely now phenomenal compared to what it was in '97. MRT and BTS, I forget which one, but one of those was only just being, the infrastructure was only being built, I think, in '97 when I was there. So I got about a lot on the transport. For us was these boats going along the rivers and canals. That was one of the cheapest forms of transport as well to get about.
Yes.
So one of our trips was from Bangkok to go to Chiang Mai. I can't speak too much about Chiang Mai until you want me to in a little bit later maybe, but there we needed to plan our travel further, and it was about getting a bus, and we heard about and read about the coach station, and this is a good way of booking if you want to reassure yourself that you're not going to be missold a product or service, is to go directly to the bus station, the main bus station, which we should have done, but we relied upon on these many pop-up travel agents that there are around in Bangkok.
Let me ask you real quick, Ty, because that you bring up a very good point. Now, I am planning to. Well, I'm not planning. I mean, I'm planning. I'm definitely going to Chiang Mai in October, and my plans to get there is to go by train. I want to take that overnight train. I want to get on the overnight train that runs from Bangkok to Chiang Mai and take that. So, your advice to someone like me who would want to get on that overnight train would be to buy my tickets from where?
For the trains, I do not know. I would there's enough vloggers now you could speak to get that advice from, and forums that are out there. So if you get the majority of people saying the same thing, then go with it. But
so trains were not your thing.
Trains were not my thing, so I can't say with any conviction how you would go about that, what the time it takes, etc., etc. We were
no problem.
Yeah, we really went on a bus, and we went directly to the bus station to get our second ticket. But our first ticket we bought from a travel agency, and they sold us what we thought was a VIP bus. VIP is essentially a coach with only 24 seats instead of 52, so there's plenty of room. However, we're standing outside this shop at 4 a.m. waiting for this bus to turn up, and it was a bus, it wasn't a coach, and it was a local bus. That is not good for a Westerner. Usually Westerners are getting around a foot taller than Thai people. This is built for Thais, and it took 14 hours with packed lunches and various stops, a lot of stops in fact, on the way to get to Chiang Mai on a local bus. That is not good. You do not enjoy your trip once you get to Chiang Mai after being on a local bus for 14 hours. With essentially, I can remember this like it was yesterday, somebody sleeping in my lap, because that's how close the seats are. And he reclined it right down and put a blanket over his head, and he was literally in between my legs snoring. Not a good experience. And then to see people come on without any uniform, with a Kalashnikov rifle, for those that don't know what a Kalashnikov rifle is, not knowing who that is, undercover, is it army, don't know, but they were a passenger with their Kalashnikov sitting just 2 seats away from me. It wasn't a pleasant experience. So I do recommend from that is to be reassured by somebody who lives and is based, and maybe is a Westerner or a reliable Thai that you know of in Bangkok that can help you, which is the best mode of booking your travel from out to leave Bangkok or travel around. Speak to those that really know. Thailand Unplugged, he's very seasoned and lives in Bangkok. There's another guy you can reach out to, and he would certainly help you. He's a very nice guy, and he's got a good channel. But that was my experience on the bus, and of course they ignored me when I went back to try and get a refund, and they were not interested in entertaining me because I was very. The
moral of this story is be very selective in what bus you choose. Correct?
Yeah, when you go to the bus station, they will show you a map of the seating plans of the 3 or 4 choices that you have, and it's not much more at all to really take. So we paid before via an agency a VIP price for a local bus that took 14 hours. and it doesn't take that long with a VIP bus because you've probably only maybe got one more stop on the way to Chiang Mai to change drivers and refuel. But yeah, they're really nice. Even my Thai fiance, she would go from Jomtien all the way to Phetchabun on a bus, and she would change at Bangkok, and I think her VIP. She was always on a VIP ticket, and that's something that she paid for herself as well. It's very accommodating. You can sleep, and you get snacks as well, and they do a toilet stop. There's toilets as well on the bus.
Right. For those listening, I recently took a VIP yellow bus, and I took it to a border town that starts with an M. I can't pronounce it. It's near Savannakhet, Laos. And I will tell you that I slept about 8 hours on that trip. It was a 15-hour bus ride, and I slept a good solid 8 hours. It was well worth the price that I paid getting on there. The seats were super comfortable. They served a meal. It was almost like being on a flight. The only thing that the bus didn't have were DVD players, and subsequently the bus that I took back, well, it was a different line. I cannot remember the name of it. It was supposed to be a higher class bus. It had DVD players in it. It had a meal. It had fold out. It was just like being on an airplane. And I'll tell you that the bus ride itself was horrible. I mean, horrible. It was so much more comfortable on that yellow bus. And this bus, I don't know what the line is called, but it's a blue and white bus. And it's a single deck instead of a double decker like the yellow bus. So if you guys are thinking of traveling Thailand in a bus and you see a blue bus and blue and white, and they try to sell you a VIP ticket, be cautious because the bus itself was just, I mean, it was like the bus didn't have any shocks on it. I bounced and I shook, and I mean, it was ridiculous. But okay, so that covers pretty much the Bangkok Chiang Mai area, and let's move on to everyone's favorite subject, which seems to be Pattaya.
All right.
I can tell you, from my recent travels in Pattaya that the main thing people are always asking about is the nightlife. What are the prices to do this, to do that? I can tell you that recently, if you want a night out and you want to have company on that night out, my friends that I've been with have spent anywhere from 1,500 to 5,000 baht, just depending on what kind of nightlife you're looking for, what kind of party you're looking to have, and that kind of thing. So that's for me now. But if you could tell people what, hey Steph, the special guest is Thai-Tastic. Steph from Steph's Thailand Travel showed up. I appreciate him being here. Hey, he's got a huge channel. He just got 10,000 subscribers. Congrats on that, buddy. But yeah, if you could tell people like what Pattaya was like back in the day, that would be really, really awesome. And I haven't been. People keep talking about Walking Street. I still have not. I've been to Pattaya 4 times now and still have not made Walking Street. So does anybody think that'll be even worth it? I'm just curious. Go ahead, take it away, Ty.
Well, okay, so Walking Street to start with. Because I was in somewhat of a quite serious relationship for 27 years, and my initial visit back in 97, and ended up living out there for 6 months. We were limited because we were working as well in Thailand for the majority of it, for 6 days a week, as to what we could do with budget constraints. And visiting the nightlife entertainment industries and having a local or somebody that's from Thailand accommodating you, it was very my options were very limited back then. And so I can't really cover that with you. My partner of the time actually was quite bemused, and she said it's about time men got hassled by women. In fact, they were lady boys, but she remembered and was killing over laughing when lady boys would try and pull me away from her in Chuang Beach when we were living there in the evenings. We was there a bit more on the nightlife briefly. That always comes to mind. I think it was Green Mango. nightclub, which is something we would frequent on and off together. We was there for the handover of Hong Kong to China in '97. So we had some guys from the Royal Marines doing some R&R, and we went out with them. They were my customers on for at least a week on boat trips, and staggering coming back from nightclubs and their Thai partners, and we were picking them up on BART buses. And yeah, they were still inebriated and were sobering up on the 2-hour boat trip before the first 2 dives. That was a great experience with the going out with the Royal Marines. Really, hitting it hard, work hard, play hard.
Right.
So we had some good time with them and their escapades, and yeah, you can imagine the stories that they were elaborating on with us. Now, going back to the nightlife in more recent years, wow, it can be hard for somebody to fathom, really, as to how to cope with it and what it is they want from nightlife, because there is so many things on offer, from companionships to different venues. Now, my clubbing days are not over. I love the clubbing music, and I've still yet to go to a club, for example, in Walking Street in Pattaya. Walking Street can be sensory overload. Let's touch on Walking Street for the moment. I don't know if it's because of my age, and I don't know. There's so much going on. It's crazy. In fact, recently the Thais realised there was too much going on in terms of noise pollution. If you're walking down there's now 2 venues at least that have now got frontage to them, glass frontage, so you can see in and kind of get an idea of what's going on. But it was just so loud, and it seems that everybody's competing, of course, for your monies while you're on holiday.
Right.
Yeah, it was sensory overload. I believe it's always been like that, and it's probably more so these days because it's just neon street. You don't need any artificial lighting to replace street lamps. You've got everything from neon lights to people waving torches at you to showing you boards to get you into their premises, etc. It's really difficult to elaborate too much on Walking Street, apart from it can be a distraction from your holiday if you're into all of that and the noise and people and bustle. Like I said, I'm not really into big cities. One of the reasons is because it's so busy, and that's what it can do for you in Walking Street. And you will be paying more for pretty much everything in Walking Street, a little bit more. I won't even say a third, but you certainly will be paying at least a third on some things, whatever it may be, from maybe food to companionship to drinks and etc.
Let me ask you real quick while we're on the subject of Walking Street. I want to find out if you've been first answer this question, then I'll continue. Have you been to Walking Street in Angeles in the Philippines?
No, in fact, I've never been to the Philippines.
Okay. No. The reason I ask is because I was going to try to draw some type of comparison. Now, I have been to Walking Street in Angeles. I shot several videos on my Angeles trip, and I have to tell you that it was extraordinarily disappointing. Going in the clubs, I'm not really the guy that goes in and takes a girl, wants to spend that money on a bar fine and that kind of thing. That's not my thing. But I do like to go in. I enjoy the music. Of course, I enjoy the sights and that kind of thing. But I also enjoy talking and meeting new people, because you just never know who you're going to run into in and around these places. But it was depressing kind of for me to watch the girls on stage, because they don't really dance. They just kind of do this little body movement back and forth thing, and I'm just wondering if it's the same here in Thailand.
No, many of the places are absolutely like that. Absolutely, you will find, and I was taken to one, a good friend of mine I've met in Thailand now, an ex-copper from the States who's retired, and he loves frequenting these places on and off, and he's taken me to a few and given me some great insight. There'll be some good videos coming up on that after I meet up with him again soon. But the majority of places are the same. Absolutely, they are just holding on to a pole or each other. And if you want to go to a professional and you like to watch people dancing, then a good club with professional dancers on certain areas of the club, throughout the club, it's where it's at. Or you go to a place where, through word of mouth, you've heard there's a go-go type bar that have got good dancers, you know. But yeah, the majority of them there are going to have a number on their sleeve, just holding onto a pole, wiggling. But you'll get the odd dancer that really stands out, and this was a good example of this fella I now know in Pattaya. Took me, where was it? It wasn't in Walking Street. Of course, you've got a much more choice there, but there are plenty of go-go style bars around Pattaya. It was in LK Metro, and it was, I can't remember if it was Crystal or not. Anyway, I'll look it up and let you know. But there was one particular lady in there, and she had snake hips. So if you're appreciative of the female form, and you want to see them actually dancing, oh my gosh, she was like a blender, with her hips going at it, and all eyes go on her when she's up on stage out of the 14 that are up there, because she just blows away. She's either very good self-taught or she's had professional tuition. And I'm not talking doing gymnastics on the pole, which is another art in itself, but you know,
that's a whole other subject. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. But what I must say before I forget, because it slipped my memory a couple of times, is that if your audience is interested in being educated as to how things work in Thailand, because we really haven't got enough time, even today, a whole day just, you know, talking to each other isn't enough. I have got a playlist that says tuition on Thailand, so I'm slowly building that library up of educational, and they are certainly my most popular videos, so you can look for that playlist at your leisure after this call.
Excellent. And you also have, I was looking today, you have some kind of, are you an affiliate for Agoda, or how exactly does that work? Can you explain, because sure. I'm very interested in something like that myself.
Sure. So Agoda compensate you for referring them business. Now, the technicalities of that are that you have to keep on top of it to a degree. Well, let's go back. Agoda, I have found through using them personally to travel and stay in places around the world, I've used them for accommodation only. As an affiliate of them, you do not get paid at the moment for referring business for flights. That is something they are looking at, because I've been in communication with their affiliate department. So you essentially sign up with them. They don't do that much vetting of you to reassure themselves about the quality of your web page, if you have one, or how you are going to promote them, which I was a bit taken back. But they are a massive foresight, forward-thinking company. They have different tools available to you as an affiliate for reporting purposes. One of the things I've learned in recent months is that there's this thing that is placed on people's computers called a cookie. A cookie is a piece of software or language that's put on your computer, which is it's not harmful to your computer, but it tracks you and the business. And those cookies can sometimes have a timeline associated with them. We're going to get a bit technical now, but very quickly, a cookie on somebody's web page may only last a certain amount of time, and theirs is quite short. I think it's just a week now. It went from 90 days. So which means if people are looking into via your affiliate link to book accommodation and find some great deals, and you will find some really good deals. I did a video recently on you can stay in Phuket, which is usually 30% more than Pattaya, for $1 a night.
I saw that. That's actually the video that I'm referring to. That's why I was inquiring. So, yeah.
And there are different, you share, because Agoda, to give people an insight, Agoda are an online booking agent broker, and they're just facilitating the sale of people's homes now, and people's personal apartments and hotels and hostels via their webpage, and they will get paid a commission. Now, they will share part of that commission with you if you're referring them business. In a nutshell, that's the affiliate program. Okay.
So it's kind of similar to like an Amazon affiliate program,
right?
Sort of.
Right, and because it's associated with your genre, your business or your hobby, then yeah, you can refer people to it. I book all my family and friends through it and get them deals, and I get a little bit of a kickback. And it can be very small, like just $2 here, $2 there. depending on how much that customer is spent and where they're staying, you know.
Yeah, it adds up, and you and I will talk offline about that a little bit more, because that's something I'm interested in.
Yeah, I've been very happy with the service. You know, I mistakenly booked a place once that cost me £6,000 for just 5 nights stay. I really thought it said baht, but it was pounds, and I was so jet lagged. I booked it in a hurry to get the deal, and yeah, I had to get £6,000 back out of them, and realised just after 10 minutes of it being booked.
Woo. Yeah, that's probably a good thing. I see the guys in the chat. They're still on Walking Street. So,
right. Well, Walking Street, I think it's best if people ask specifics about Walking Street. You know, that everything is there, from eating places to clubs to beer bars to beer complexes, which is an area dedicated to a hell of a lot of bars, and we're talking usually a dozen up, which go out over onto the water as well. There's all sorts. There's entertainers in the streets. It is sensory overload, as I say. It's an experience everybody should have when they're going to Pattaya. It doesn't really open up for business until, you know, early evening, and places now close earlier. They used to be open to, I think, 6 a.m. I think it's now 3 or 4 a.m. places close, and there's plenty to see and do. And if you've got a holiday budget, then you wouldn't mind spending it in there, I'm sure. If you like music, I like good quality music in terms of how it's produced through the speakers. So it'd have to be really good for me to go into a club, and like Insomnia is supposed to be good. I think there's one called Max at the other end of Walking Street. Just walk.
What do you
start with?
What do you Larry says stuck in the past? I understand, Larry, and I believe me, I get it, buddy. No issue there. But what would you say? I'm familiar with the LK Metro scene. So what would you say in terms of LK Metro and Walking Street? What are some of the similarities and differences? And I believe you've already covered price, right? You said Walking Street was going to be a little bit more expensive.
Sure. Noise in LK Metro is not too dissimilar from Walking Street, but you've got a lot more in Walking Street offering you. You've got LK Metro areas like a horseshoe shape, right? Going up and coming back onto Soy Bacau. There's a lot more to offer you in Walking Street, but it could be a bit more sort of a sensory overload. LK Metro is a good one to pop in and out, and even stay in above one of the go-go bars. Maybe you can. I think we discussed before on one of the lines, but it has, I don't know, it doesn't have really street entertainers. LK Metro, Walking Street has. And guys, we're only talking what, 5 to 10 minute bus ride, or no more than 15-minute walk between these two locations. But you can Google it and see the locations.
Yeah,
visit.
I was going to say, if I can walk it.
Yeah, I did.
I can walk from here.
You're right. I did a video. I'll give you an example. In my videos, I want to hear dialogue from people I'm interacting with or filming. I went to, and I love Scooters. They're very accommodating of me. I've met the owner a couple of times. And Scooters Bar, there's 3 in total in Pattaya, and they've got one in Bangla Road in Phuket. And I went to this one in LK Metro, and it was very disappointing in terms of being able to talk to each other. That's how noisy it was. So the sites were good, beer prices are okay, but it was too much for me. It was, you know, if you want to interact with somebody, even if it's somebody working there, I want to hear them. And there's a few places like that on LK Metro, but there's some really good quiet places as well. Billabong is one of the most popular. It's on a corner within LK Metro, and it's quite open up as well. It's a very large, if not the largest bar in LK Metro, and there's a lot of people to entertain you there. They have live bands.
They do. I've stayed in our Rovers several times in Pattaya, and I have to, and Billabong's, you know, is right there on the corner. So for example, the first few times I stayed in Pattaya, I was talking about this on either a video or a stream I did recently. I stayed on the backside of the hotel itself, so I was on the backside of LK Metro, and the noise did not bother me at all. I could sleep whenever I wanted to, no questions asked. Now, when I was there last weekend, they were overbooked, so I had to get the big suite room that's got the balcony, and it's on the front side of LK Metro. And with Billabong's being right, I mean, just diagonally, probably 40 feet away, maybe. It's not far at all. The noise is just it's undoable. Now, someone mentioned to me, one of the Larrys that comments that Crystal Suites now has, which I'm thinking about staying there on one of my next trips, because they said that they had some type of double painting going on with the glass or something.
That's right. I think I told you on your last video stream. I think.
Oh, that was you. That was you that told me that. Okay. Okay.
I watched the video. I was considering it because it's very reasonable actually for what you get, and they've only been built, I think, about a year now. You do actually the entrance to your rooms is shared by a stairwell that the go-go dancers use. You see all their lockers on the first floor, and you'll see this in Pattaya. Video because he stayed there, so I was a little bit taken back by actually the quality of the rooms, and they're I believe he said they're double glazed doors and windows, and he slept fine, but that he was questioning the same whether or not it'd be too noisy, and it was fine, and the prices are very reasonable actually. And
I actually noticed that for about $28 US before tax, you can get one of their rooms, and I actually saw the room. I didn't realize on Pattaya Price's video that that was where he was staying until I saw 112's video. And when I saw 112's video and he was showing the room off, I was like, wow, that is a really freaking nice room. So that may be
well one of my next for the price. Absolutely, I think they're value for money, and it's of course everything's in staggering distance for you there.
Yeah, staggering distance. I like that. That's a good. that's definitely a good one. So guys, we have been going for right at an hour, and I have to say this is definitely, without question, the best live stream I've been a part of so far, just simply because of the knowledge. And Ty, I want to thank you. Seriously, thank you so much for coming on and just sharing all this.
You're welcome.
All this wonderful information, man. It's
are you?
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. Gonna wrap this one up because I have a very early morning tomorrow. My job requires me to get up extremely early, and usually I'm trying to find a better time to do these live streams so that we can get more live interaction. But for right now, this is the live streaming game is something that I've been around for a while, but I've never tried to create a live streaming platform. And what I'm trying to do is learn how to do this so that when I set up, I'm building a community. It will be a privatized community in which you will have private live streams bi-weekly. You'll have a app called Signal that will be used. It's a very well encrypted app. That only the people that are part of this community will have access to. I'm going to be doing behind the scenes footage, and that behind the scenes footage will likely be posted in a closed and unlisted Facebook group for only the people that are part of the community, where I can post some of the nightlife stuff that I can't post, on YouTube, obviously, and various other things. It can live stream on that Facebook Live from various places that will really give people a lot of. I'm looking at building a lot of value, and I'm going to do it through some type of site. I'm considering what to do, maybe my own site, potentially. Probably the least hassle would be a Patreon site, and charge some ridiculously low amount for providing the content, and making sure that people understand that if it does go with Patreon, many times people use Patreon sites for donations to keep their channel afloat and that kind of thing. I'm not, me personally, and I have no problem with that, no issue with that at all. If you like a content creator's content, you should, and you want to give money to support them, then go for it. But for me, it's going to be more of a, this is additional content. I'm not taking anything away from the YouTube channel. And if you want to be a part of this tight-knit community, with like-minded people, then you are welcome to join. It's not I don't need you to support the channel. I'm supporting the channel. It's more of a, and
of course, as fledgling vloggers as we are, even if we've been doing it for only 2 or 3 years. There is so much more coming to YouTube as well. There will be membership options for people eventually once you meet their criteria, and they will reduce the criteria that needs to be attained in order to get that as well. They're rolling it out to people with at least 100,000 subscribers right now. But yeah, there's a lot going on, and there'll be so many more options open to.
They'll get it down to 10,000 or 5,000 eventually. They always roll out with really high numbers and that kind of thing. But I wanted everybody to be aware of that, and as they listen to this live stream, just know that option is going to become available within the next 2 weeks. Again, let me just go ahead and wrap this thing up. And I want to say thanks to everybody in the chat that contributed. Appreciate your questions. And I definitely look forward to hearing you guys on the next chat. And as far as Thai-Tastic goes, again, I can't say thank you enough for jumping on. You're my first guest on a live stream. And really, it couldn't have went any better. I mean, I really hope I'm going to do everything I can as far as tagging and titling and promotioning this video in order to, just for the simple fact that people need to hear your knowledge. People need to hear everything that you shared tonight, because it was just absolutely wonderful. And it's so good to have a different perspective. Let me say real quickly, I see X Marks just popped in real late, and X Marks is one of my favorite people. He's a little bit of an antagonist, but I really like the guy. So we're gonna wrap it up with that. And Thai-Tastic, do you have any final thoughts for everyone?
Have fun, whatever it is you do, and keep it that way.
And that sounds like great advice. So thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate it, and I'll be talking to you offline soon, sir, for sure.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining in and participating. It's appreciated, and thanks for inviting me. And yeah, it's I'm always here. If anybody's got any questions, I'm not going anywhere. You'll find me, and you'll find Jeremy. We might be at different time zones, but yeah, we're contactable. So enjoy.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, man. Everybody have a good night, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Okay, take care.